Do you need me to repeat anything?
No, I'm a little bit.
Okay. So then they rolled it over in 2012 to, as I said, Stronger Futures. They extended the reach of the card. And then they did a final evaluation of the intervention. And it showed, and you can find this information, it's a very detailed report. They involved the University of New South Wales and the researchers, and they basically found that the card, or the intervention, particularly income management, met none of its objectives. None of its objectives. We still have very significant disadvantage in the Northern Territory. We have more and more Aboriginal children going into out-of-home care. And so, in other words, it hasn't solved the issues around underlying disadvantage. It hasn't solved the issues of addiction, of alcohol abuse, and the matters that the Howard government said at the time used to justify the intervention. Of course, they also did the going into communities, so-called normalisation. There was a few successful parts of the intervention that weren't related to the income management, which was, well, the government claims it's successful in some communities like it, and that is police were stationed in some communities that didn't have police before, and people thought that was good by and large, but they also noticed more people going into jail for non-payment of fines, speed driving offences, for example. So that had it was a double-edged sword. So and then we move on to the government at the time also rolled out the basic card in what they call place-based income management, where there's a number of communities that are rolled out for various things. Here in Western Australia was rolled out on a voluntary basis. I should say at the start, by and large, I don't have a problem so much with voluntary income management. If people want to volunteer to save money and have some money put away right now, I don't have a problem with that as long as it's genuinely voluntary. Some instances I've heard where people went onto it voluntarily when they were really forced onto it by various government agencies. For example, child protection, if you don't go onto the card, your children may end up here, those sorts of things. But by and large, I don't object, and also it should be known that before the intervention was rolled out, Tarrangere Council, which is the council that was responsible at the time for town camps in Alice Springs, actually had their own version of Centrelink, and they had over 2,000 people on their books and about 800 actively putting money aside out of their income support at the time of the intervention. In other words, they were already doing their own system on a voluntary basis. So the place base has been operating, it's been operating in Perth for a while, as I said, child protection measures. Different states have them for different reasons. There's been various iterations, and then of course the government came up with the idea of the Cashless Welfare Card, the Cashless Debit Card. It has been rolled out in Sujuna, you're probably aware, and Kununurra, and I'll talk a bit about the evaluation shortly. Then of course it's been rolled out here, and there's a proposal before Parliament to roll it out in the region. There's various different groups that it applies to, so in Hinkler they intend to apply to single parents under the age of 35, for example. Now, those trials obviously were put in place through legislation through Parliament. The Greens were the only party that opposed income management when it started. The Rudd and the Yellow, the Rudd governments continued the intervention. The Gillard government rolled out Stronger Futures. Labor supported the Cashless Welfare Card being rolled out in Kununurra and Sujuna. However, they did not support the card being rolled out in Kalgoorlie, in the Goldfields, but they did agree to an extension of the Kununurra trial and the Sujuna trial. I'm not sure what they're going to be doing in yet. They have historically supported income management, although to be fair, they now very seriously considering it. I was extremely disappointed to see the Kununurra trial and the Sujuna trial expanded for another year. I was asked, can we stop it? So we're trying to encourage other people in Parliament to actually have a look at the evidence and to try and to oppose the right and inquiry and then not allow the continuation of the trials if they come up again. The other thing is a lot of the legislation depends on, I'm sorry I'm using technical terms, I'm really happy to explain it, but what we call delegated instruments. In other words, there's rules that underlie the legislation that don't have to be passed through Parliament as we would normally debate a bill. They have to call, what we do is sit on the table for 15 sitting days. And anybody can move to disallow them. We can't amend them, we can just bring on a vote that's to either support them or to disallow them. And there's another set of those instruments that underpin this trial that are on the table again, and I'll be seeking to try to disallow those instruments. And in answer to your question earlier, could you stop it? If I've got enough people to support my disallowance, yes, we can stop it because those rules are required to make the trials operational. Those and the rules relate to the types of payments that are in, the boundaries, a whole lot of things. Now, one of the things that the Goldfields trial, how it's different to some of the other trials, is that in the other trial areas they have community panels. So as you know, 80% of the income support is what I say quarantining. Okay, 20% you can have in cash. Now, in the other communities, you can apply to this community panel. And you have to give them quite a bit of information. By the way, that's problematic in itself. I can come back to that if you want to. In the other communities, you can go to this panel and you can apply to have the amount of money that's quarantined reduced from 80%. You can't get it below 50%, but you could have it taken back to, say, the basis card level, which is 50%. Kalgoorlie does not have one at that panel. And when I asked about that panel, the government said, well, we've got a reference group here, and they've said that, and at the community meetings they had, they've said that people said they didn't want that panel. Okay, so I'm just telling you that's what I was told in estimates. And I'll come to you in a sec, David. And in Kununurra, Wyndham and Sejuna, they won't actually tell me who's on that panel. They will not name the people, and I've tried and they will not name them. They say because, you know, they're small communities, and so therefore, you know, they don't want to name them for confidential reasons. Now, my response to that is, yes, it's a small community. That's what people want to know, because it could be their neighbour knowing all their personal business. Because you have to, you know, talk about how you pay your bills, if you've got any debts, if your kids are going to school, if you've had been in trouble with the police, you know, all those sorts of things. And people don't want to tell their neighbours that sort of information. There is also some provisions for exemptions, and there's a few people that they have for people that have been exempt from securing trials. I think I'll leave it at that. I'm trying to open to you to ask questions, and then maybe I'd really like to hear of people's experiences on that.
My name's David Constance. You probably know me off Facebook. However, over the years, I attended for 4 years straight every council meeting. And out of that came our new council 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And since that new council has been in, I have been gagged from asking questions at council meetings. The reason that they did that is because I was attacking some projects in Kalgoorlie, not Boulder, in Kalgoorlie, and I was putting the heat on them to either have them done because they had grants to go ahead with those projects.
Did you have a question?
Yes, who's the government for indue?
Sorry?
Who do indue answer to?
Who do you answer to?
Yeah.
So the government's contracted indue to run
Yeah, but okay, and what governance is there around who oversees?
They're a particular financial institution.
So who watches over them?
They're governed by the National Financial Crisis.
Right, so there's not a government body.
They're not yes, there is in terms of there's governance over financial institutions. So they're bound by those governance.
Okay. All right, and now with these late payments, okay, people are saying that they set up a payment scheme, and they're saying that they're not being paid on time. Is that correct? People's payments late?
Yes.
Yeah. Why is that? Could it be that they're holding it back to make a profit for themselves?
Well,
Or are they perhaps investing on short-term money market internationally?
I can't answer those questions.
No,
So
I'm
what I'm
asking-
going to do is ask them through the estimates process, which is the process.
So I'm very
of-
sceptical, if you've got a payment scheme, it should all be on computer, okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this money goes up to this account, blah, blah, blah. You know, why is there a delay? There has to be a reason, there has to be a choice, and they're choosing not to pay that money.
That's why I'm going to be following this up to ask how many are they late, why are they late, what makes
Yes,
the payments.
and we should have those records, they should be open to receive the names. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to be following that up.
Still got your question as well?
Oh, hang on, I think.
Is there, oh, sorry, was there one?
There's been a few questions asked. When did this come about? What did you know about it? My first recollection, and I follow council, I follow state government, local government, and the community. Now, this community, the only inkling at all from anybody concerning the indue card was Mr. Walker and Mr. Bowler gave notice to the community that they were going to go to Ceduna to see how the indue card works. Now let me tell you how it began in Ceduna. A consortium of government workers, bureaucrats in the government, came up to Ceduna to discuss something about 4 years ago. They hired, or they rented some of the what do you call them, the sheds, caravan park. Anyway, they rented these out, and there was roughly a dozen of them. And their view was the beach, which was across the road from the caravan park. Half a dozen blackfellas were drinking down on the beach. They made an uproar about it. Went to the police, caravan park, all the rest of it. Nothing was done about it. So they went back to Adelaide and made a big noise in Adelaide. And of course the Ceduna mayor had to take notice, the police had to take notice, and that's how it developed, because after I go through Ceduna probably about a dozen times a year. Each time I go there, I go fishing over to Nile Bay, stay there a week or maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I spoke with all the shopkeepers, well not all, but the majority of them. Now the majority of the shopkeepers have a little table out the front of their shop to sell their goods to the public walking by, they might be goods on sale. That's still done there. The blackfellas are still coming into town, but they're not buying their beer there. They're buying it further out, through their friends. But they still don't have a problem with booze at all. Yet this indue card was introduced by half a dozen bureaucrats from Adelaide, complaining to the coppers and the council through Adelaide. That's how it came about in Ceduna.
Yes, since the card's been introduced, it's been a while now, and I know that recently we had a report from the police talking about Ceduna, down in Ceduna, about the crime wave that's happened since the card's come in. You know, as you know, 75% of the people who are on the card don't have drinking problems, don't have gambling problems. So a minority affects the majority. But I'd like to, could you please ask the local police force what's happened with the figures in the crime rate in Kalgoorlie since the card's been introduced? I think the gentleman over here touched on it as well. You know, kids they can't get the money, they can't get to buy their drugs and their alcohol. So what they need to do is they need to go and rob houses, they need to bash people, they need to, you know, home invasions, they need to break into properties and the businesses to fuel their drug addiction or their alcohol addiction. So could we get some figures? Let me ask.
Sounds like a good idea, that one.
Yeah, we've been following what's been going on in Canada and Sejuna and following so we've been trying to chase that as well. There's an evaluation that will be undertaken. Now, I ran out of time to be asking questions on this in the last district, so sorry, I'll put questions in on those, which means I'll just get them back later. I'm asking about the evaluation, but anyway, they'll look at it through that process. That I've got some serious problems with the way they evaluate the Sejuna and Canara trials. But yes, we will be following up that issue very closely. Now, I had a question here and then the lady at the back. You're hanging up first.
My name's Graham. Now, given what Rory has just told us, and it should be done, I appreciate it if you did follow up on that, Rachel.
Very definitely.
But given that we've seen what happened with Sejuna when they were starting to roll out, they had doubled the police force up there. Exactly the same thing has happened down here. And the crime rate has not reduced one iota. In fact, it's gone up. It's gone up. There's some of the stories you hear around town about shops having their purses smashed in the shops.
I'll chase the issue around.
And people aren't bothering to report it to the cops because
They don't do nothing.
they don't get a response. Absolutely no response. There's been a lot of theft. Small crime theft, but it's a lot of things involved.
We had about 20 or 30 coppers in town most days. We had a mobile office in Wilson Street for the last 5 weeks. With the flashing lights going all the bloody time. But at 5 o'clock, they go home. Right? Where's the dramas in Boulder? We've hardly had any dramas in Boulder, apart from the burglaries and the stolen motorbikes. That's all we've had in Boulder. But they're coming down from this side of the railway line, where they can get their bloody sewage. They can't even fix the drains up.
They carried an Aboriginal bloke last night out of the TAB, 6 of them, and they lifted him up, just walked him out and stuck him into the
Yeah. And you've got the tourists taking photographs of the policemen on the horses.
I just wanted to say that this indue card is stopping me from doing community things with my family. 20% goes into my bank account, which is cash. Now, that for me is only $170 a fortnight. Now, that pays for any light lunches that my kids might need, any pocket money, anything that I want to need to pay cash for that this card's not accepted. So, going to like the community fair, I won't be able to go for someone.
Or even the market days.
Even market days, I can't use it.
We don't get
Because we hold on to that cash like it's gold. Do you know what I mean? Because we can't get it.
What about our second-hand clothes store?
$350,000 a year.
Like it just is going to stop my family from enjoying going out, or any family going out and enjoying a free community event, but even the vans, you know, pay cash or any stalls or anything to support any local member in this town that might have a stall that might be selling honey.
And they say spend money locally. Well, how can you do that with charge?
It's causing.
Yep.
And people are giving up their dogs now because they can't afford the tucker to feed them.
The labour line is trying to say.
My name's Rita. I don't know why I'm on it. My kids are all grown up. I wasn't asked. I didn't volunteer. I don't like it. Stops me from doing a lot of things.
Tax away individual.
Yeah.
So
And I do know people that are a heap younger than me, and they're not even on it. So I think that's
Yeah,
discrimination. I don't do drugs, I don't drink
Oh,
alcohol.
why not?
Oh, because I was an alcoholic.
Did you know you were going to be on?
No, I just thought I wouldn't get it because I have no children. None at all. They're all grown up and gone.
You start.
But you're on some form of
I'm
income
on
support.
disability, I was, but I'm not no more. Got to take this stupid card. She told me if I didn't take it, I would get cut off and I wouldn't get paid for 5 weeks. So too bad.
The government's
Okay, we'll see the government, yeah.
So the first you
Yeah,
know
it's
about
okay.
are you
Was
saying
when I
the
received the card, then the letter.
card then the
So, yeah, I just think it sucks.
Can I ask?
Now, this gentleman here was talking about money, right? Now, I don't know about the Australian bucket, it's 43 billion. We've got a cash flow at the moment with the Aboriginal bucket, this is where it's all coming to. So what they're doing is that every taxpayer has to pay $10,000 per person on the indue card. Say times 10,000 by 4,000 people who are on this card. So then they get 22 million put towards this card. Now, Rupert Murdoch was actually the one that funded this card, okay? He was the one that funded this card that was introduced by the government to get this card. Like I said, your life's been played on. They don't care about you, all right? They just want to see us suffer, depopulating ourselves, that sort of stuff, creating mental stress, traumatising our lives, physically and emotionally, mentally abusing us, and that sort of stuff here in the community. Like I said, I've been here for 54 years. I've worked most of all of it at the age of 17, and I've been working, and I've got a house and I've got a mortgage. But at the moment now is that I've gone into debt because of this cashless card. So we'll go back to the stock exchange now. Whilst the 2 million is on this card, but this card is swinging at the stock exchange every night while you'll see earning 20 million. Now that goes to the government money to lift their bucket up, right, to the level of the Aboriginal. They're using the Aboriginal funding to bring it up, and that's what's happening. So there's a bigger picture again behind this. There's another part of this section towards this indue card. Remembering that's how they play with your lives, to see if we're going to survive, to see, okay, we're going to reduce this other person on the benefits. They're making your lives hard and miserable. But that's something that you need to be questioned. The financial accountability towards this card. Okay? Financial accountability.
Is there a particular, like most businesses when they paid money, obviously they have a tender. Does indue have a tender for this $12,000?
Yeah, they were the body that was selected to manage the card.
Yeah.
Or to roll the card out.
Yeah.
And then there is a contract with the government where it's saying.
Okay, so there's no layout of where this $12,000 is actually going per card.
The calculations, and it's in the ACOS document, the calculations that have been done of about $10,000 to run the system per person is based on the information that we've been able to glean through the government telling us through questions, etc. So when you talk about accountability, that's adding up what we've found out's been spent, dividing it by the number, basically by the number of people that's on there.
So in saying that, couldn't we just be giving the 10,000 to each of the families instead of giving it to this company?
That point has been made about spending it on actually addressing some of the issues for the reasons why people are on it.
I have another sort of question. Now, I myself, I'm on the card. I'm a single parent, but my son is on a disability support, so he was automatically exempt because I'm his payment nominee. So therefore, I still have his cash. I don't have my own. Where does that make sense? They trust me to run my son's money, but not my own. Where does that make sense? I'm a single mother, so I have single parenting, and my son who lives with me, he's 18, he's on a disability support pension.
So you're on New Start?
No, I'm still on single parent. My youngest isn't over 8 yet.
You must have been one of the... so I'm trying to work out how the different payments work.
So single parent. So it doesn't make sense to me. The government seems to trust me with my son's money, but not my own. It really...
She's on the card.
Yeah, so I myself, for my payment, I'm on it, but I get my son's money in cash to me because I'm his nominee. It just doesn't make sense to me. So if I really was drug addict, alcoholic, whatever, I still have $500 odd that I could be going running off with. I mean, where does it make sense? I mean, really, it doesn't make sense.
Okay, I haven't heard of that one before. You said your son is
My son, he's only 10, but that's the point. Like, it's not going to stop people getting money for their alcohol. You're making innocent and people to do fraudulent things. Do you know what I mean? You're making people do things that they don't, criminally, are going to not want to do. Because they need their money, they need to get a hold of their cash. It's not to do like drugs and things like that, but you're making innocent people do fraudulent things. Because we don't need this car, we don't need to be forced on income management because we're quite happy, we were managing our funds perfectly fine, our bills were being paid on time, we had a really good credit rating, and now it's all going down the toilet because of this car.
I think you've got support services like, like Bega and what you were saying earlier, mate, you need to address the problem at the start, not at the end.
Not about more of an issue.
So can I go to the support services then? Is anybody involved or know of whether the funding has benefited into some of those support services?
I know one. There was a write-up in the Kalgoorlie Miner about $125,000 going to Centre Care for their counselling, financial counselling, but that's the only thing I've seen.
And in the meeting that I had with them last week, when I got back, the deputy director of this told me that it had gone to fund 20 jobs in Belfast, and I said those 20 jobs are all about explaining the indue card, and he said yes, I said what about the rest of the support services that are required, like the health services and that. He said, oh, we're working on it. So the answer is probably no.
Okay. So they're working on the services, like the financial counselling services.
So the money that they got so far, according to him, has gone towards funding of the stock and one-stop shops.
Okay.
That they have in Boulder and Kalgoorlie and whatever else, I think. And I believe maybe funding some of his department. But just a quick question I have based on what you were saying. Which government department is managing this contract with indue? Is it Human Services?
Yes.
It's coming out of Human Services.
Yeah.
So what reporting mechanism is in place from indue back to Human Services, i.e. back to the department, back to the Parliament if you wish to ask these questions? What reporting mechanisms are in place? Because I can tell you from the meeting that I had with him last week, he cannot report to me as a business owner how many indue cards have been used in my business to purchase things. Even though they say that it's up to me, there's no penalties or anything, but it's up to me to make sure that my staff are educated not to serve them. The onus is put back on me, and I said, well, what happens when we don't? He said, we'll cut you off. I said, well, how are you going to report it back to me so that I can, as a responsible owner, ensure that this is being followed, and I have the email that says that we're chasing it up.
Okay, so I'll come back to you in a sec. Do you want to add to that?
I just want to make that the reason that's important is the indue card is not allowed to buy alcohol, which is buy cigarettes.
Yes.
So therefore, theoretically, you could go into a hotel and use the indue card to buy cigarettes, but not alcohol. So it places the onus back on the staff to make sure they don't. And that's the point.
So there's a couple of things I'd like to double check and ask there. So this is one of the issues that I brought up when we were debating when the trials were very first brought in, and that is, as I understand it, in some places there's now going to be these two terminals, one that can be used for the indue card and for payment of things that are allowed on the card, and one that's not, which they were using to then get around some problems. Yes, and food and things.
That's the responsibility of the business.
Well, this is where I'm coming to, is my understanding. I was actually reading the new instrument, I was talking about the rules. I was actually reading the new one on the plane on the way up, and
my understanding is under that there's going to be more now about giving, it's related to the powers to say no, I can't, to automatically basically automatically ban payments when, you know, you've got to use the card. So the machine would reject it if you're buying things that are
as I say,
banned. That's my understanding of
the
where you're
technology that they have in force at the moment will not support that statement.
Yep.
And cannot support that statement. It would require a massive overhaul of the technology.
Oh, sorry,
Of the actual technology.
Yep.
The way they're doing it at the moment, I understand fully.
Yep.
It cannot be done in a system without changing, and I'm talking $1 billion change here, I'm not talking little bits. Okay, this is just a little sideshow, to be honest. It would take billions to change the system with the way that we purchase at the moment.
Right.
And it can't be done overnight.
Right.
I mean, a simple report that I asked for as a responsible owner so that I can ensure my staff are doing the right thing can't be produced, and you're 12 months into the trial, 18 months into the trial, so what is being reported on?
Well, I'll check that and I'll ask some questions about this instrument.
Just ask you a question. As a business owner, will you, before the rollout of the card, would you approach with any of the terms and conditions of indue?
There were some discussions in the local board meeting.
Yeah.
But
were you giving a hard copy of your merchant terms and conditions to read over?
We were given a draft copy of them, yes.
Yes, we're okay.
Which is where I made, and I actually had I've been pretty sick in Perth for the last 9 months, but I actually had the head of the indue card trial come and see me at my children's home, and we had a 2-hour discussion, okay? And he showed me all of that, and out of that I opted out of the trial. I did not want to be part of this trial at all. And then last week, there was enormous pressure put on me because I do have accommodation and I do have food and I do have people who want to use those services.
I think you're very smart.
And I did not want to be part of it.
Yeah.
Okay? Now I've had that pressure put on me and I've gone on to the trial on the basis that they can give me every 6 weeks, and it's only a 3-month thing with me. I'm not there for the whole 12 months. Because as I said to them, and I'll say to everybody else, I, as a business owner, cannot hold my hand over my heart and say that my staff here are going to do what I ask them to do 100% of the time. That's a reality of life, and it's a reality of business.
Well, that's what I think Subway is...
Placing any onus and legislative penalties against businesses will not work, because you can't ensure 100% of the time that it's going to happen.
That's it.
What's the penalty for you if your staff feels under
There
pressure?
is no penalty to me. There is no penalty. What they will say is that we will cut you off.
Yeah.
My question is, how in the hell can they cut me off if they can't report on it?
Yeah. But I'm going to follow this up because and as it relates to the instrument that I've been reading, because it was my understanding was that they are trying to do something about that. So I'm going to
If
follow
you're 12 months into the trial,
Yeah.
why are we 12 months into the trial? You've got 36,000 people in this town, out of which 3,500 are now involved in this trial. 10% larger than, 10 times larger than what was in Sejuno. And you haven't got your reports done? You really don't invented this system. I've got a pretty good idea on that person involved, but I'm not going to say that.
So I'll follow that up.
Right.
Yes.
I'm appealing.
Yeah.
How come those like Councillor Logan from Kalgoorlie, who's such a Parliament, Wilson, the champion, and the other young lady, to support it? How come they don't come here to back up what they're pushing?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Now they flew back with Twiggy's private jet because to go here, it was paid for an outfit to go and support it. I would like to ask that question.
I obviously can't.
I know that you can't. This is something that I have been told. Yeah. And I'm not reminding Prime Minister Howard flew there to open the mine. Yes, because he ripped me and my people off for those lands, and it was strategic from way back.
You're spot on in terms of the Creating Parity report, if people remember.
Have you read the report from the journalist from the Australian newspaper?
Which one?
The Weekend Australia that Tony Shaw did an interview?
From a while ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So people will remember that the Peter Forrest chaired the committee that wrote the Creating Parity report, where he then put the proposal that everybody on income support should.
He ripped every community off and said, go up to there and this is happening in all these communities. Yeah, so that's why he's blanking it. There you go.
Hello, my name's Rory Cummins. I'm the union organiser for the Australian Manufacturing Workers Union. As you know, we're very involved with social justice. It's great to see Mr Walker here today. Well, this report this is from ACOS. This was done in October 2017. The report actually says that the Cashless Welfare Card, or CDC, it does not work. It does not work. And it's been proven it doesn't work. And it's been submitted in Parliament that it doesn't work by the peak body in Australia for social services. But nobody wants to listen to them. So I'd like to take the opportunity to ask Mr Walker, what consultation was taken in this community? As far as I'm concerned, I've been talking to community leaders, and nobody in this community believes they've had any opportunity at all to have any consultation as far as the implementation of this card in the Goldfields area.
It's taken out of our control. Out of our control.
I'm here to listen.
Okay.
Let it be first.
You sit on our shire council and represent us, and you can voice your opinion up there, but you can't sit here with your normal people sitting here, the community members that support these people, and you can't even stand up and have a say about what's going on in this country.
Was there a town hall meeting? You know, as far as I'm aware, there was no town hall.
No.
Excuse me.
Where's Betty Logan?
She was the woman that asked us to get on here, one woman.
Could you please, I really want to hear your feedback. Could you please direct your comments to me? I really want to hear about what consultation you felt was heard, because the government claims there was over 100 meetings talking to people.
No way.
We had 2 meetings in July, and they told us we'll get in the car. That was it. 2 years in, people come to town and told us we'll get the car.
This is what I want to know about, because in other communities, when they've talked about the consultation that's been held, it's been with self-selected leaders and not the people that are actually affected by the car, or who would be affected by the car. So that's what's happened, but I'm talking, government saying in estimates that there was all this process of consultation. So I'm really keen to hear whether you had any, whether you know people that did, who were the people, and if you've heard of any, if you were invited to any meetings. I'm really keen to hear that. But if you could take it one at a time, because I can't actually.
I can speaking list.
Sorry?
I can speaking list.
I can't
Raise
actually
your
hear
hand.
when you're all
I'll
talking
list.
at once. Is that okay? Because I really do want to hear it, because I need to, I want to be able to tell government what happened and how you felt about it. Okay?
So I'll let you raise your hand.
I just want to say my own business is affected by this, but that doesn't affect my judgment. My question is, this card was brought in to assist people who have problems. Unfortunately, what I see is it's a blanket approach, and it's not targeting those people who have those problems. The police, all the support services have known who the problem people are. And I think that this card would be better being brought in to those people to assist them. And in line with that, I'd like to know what sort of
said that allocated some money. I want to know what people think about those services. Are they aware whether that's been implemented? So can we come back to that?
So my understanding is that there's about 80 different funded organisations in town that have funding, whether they be government or non-government organisations for that, but I can tell you that I don't think all those services are taking their services to the people. Now, if you've got, they said that they were ready for this card because there's about 200 to 300 people who have problems in this town. The blanket card has gone over 3,000 people. So rather than having the organisations, the 80 organisations taking 3 heads each, it's a blanket approach and these organisations aren't stepping up to fulfil their duties.
Can I ask, were you involved in any consultation around the card?
I was aware that there was one meeting which I did not attend, so I wasn't in town. But I have to be careful what I say because I actually own a hotel. So therefore, anything I say will be deemed you're trying to improve my business. My attitude to that is if they put 2% on their cash, I can take the risk. I look at it not from my business point of view, but from my social standing, and going, this has affected more people than people do it.
Can I just take that a little bit further on Arlene's husband? Okay. We were actually approached last week. We have not accepted the indue card at all because I did not want to be part of this trial. I didn't want to be part of just blanket banning of people being able to use their income. Now, we were approached last week by the indue card people, I can name them, which business card up on the wall, and had a lot of pressure put on us to accept the card. Now, I don't want to get involved in the trial and I want to stay away from it. But if you want to talk fact, here is the fact. If you go and have a look at the police records now, for the break-ins that are happening over at the KCGM Super Pit, the stores area, they're there on a daily basis, if not 3 times a day, and they're chasing young Aboriginals away from there. And they're going through razor wire to get to it, but they're trying to get the methylated spirits and the spray paint cans. And that's a fact. The other fact is that the elderly are now in fear of the younger members of their own family, because the younger members of the family want the money that they can get off their cards and can't get off their own cards for their own spending. So it's turning family against family. And we're dealing with a health issue here, and we're using a sledgehammer. Now, I was in the government in 2007, and I was selected to go and manage Owen Pellick. Okay, so I do understand in 2007, I do understand this government, and I resigned from the government position that I had. The reality is it's a health issue, and the current West Australian of the Year, Professor Mike Doyle, is the one that has continually, for the last 10 years, denied the adequate health services for this area. And still, they're arguing now with Liga as to how many days a week they're going to have detox beds and all the rest of it. And the Mayor's own comments during his own election was there are 120 community based organisations here who were there specifically to look after lower socio-economic people, and they're all being funded by somebody. Can we possibly have a serious look at trimming some of this fat and putting the money into places where it is needed? And it is needed in these detox beds. It is needed in all of that, because we're the largest consumer of meth in Western Australia, according to the papers, which is nothing for us to hold our head up about, but it is now cheaper and easier to get meth on the streets than it is for somebody to buy a bottle of scotch.
And we're talking about the elders, these young ones taking the elder home, that's what elderly is. So what's going to happen with these grandparents and that sort of stuff? And they've got no money to go buy their medication, to look after themselves, to go pay their rent and all that sort of stuff, and buy food for themselves. Where are they going to go? Isn't that not there?
Apparently the taxis don't take the car as well, so the Aboriginal people can't even go to the hospital
to
get their medication.
That's it.
Okay.
My principal concern with this card is the mental health strain on community. Okay, I see it time and time again that people with struggling through life, dealing with their problems the best way they can. This new card has created a whole new lot of pressure for them, and a lot of people aren't handling it. And my question is, what is the federal government doing? Are they allocating extra funds into the health budget to cater for this people in the area?
That's what they are supposed to be doing. There's little money
So
out
they're acknowledging that there are creating mental health issues for the community and they're putting money into it.
My understanding is that it's for, they know that they're saying yes or no, that there's not enough services. They're not saying we recognise the card to create mental health issues, but they are saying that they're allocating more money. And that's also what I'd like to hear is, have people seen it yet? Has anyone been consulted about where the money should be spent? Now, I'm going to go back to the consultation issue, just so I can get an understanding, and then we'll come back to some of these issues if that's okay. Who is next?
Hi, my name is Melissa. I'm a carer, and I work at Cashless Welfare Card, and I do appreciate you being here so you can hear the concerns of the community. I myself have mental health issues as well, trying to deal with 2 cards and 2 bank accounts now. I'm married, my husband has a full-time job, I'm a full-time carer for my son who has autism, and now I've been put on this forced income management. My husband and I, we manage our funds to the Senate. Now I've had to do a budget on top of a budget because indue can any time can go, oh well, we're not going to pay that bill for you. So is the government going to fix my perfect credit rating when this card is gone? I'm becoming a credit risk because my bills are not being paid, like my loans and things like that are not being paid on time. Because indue, they will tell you yes that money will be going from the indue account and being paid off to whoever you have to pay for. A lot of instances, this is not the case, that we're getting late fees because our bills and our loans are not being paid on time. So that is causing more hardships and causing more problems for us. We're having to find more money to pay for our fees and stuff like that. And do you know how embarrassing it is to know that we have this card, we have done nothing wrong, you have blanketed us all, labelled us all as drunks, alcoholics, people that do not look after their children. My son comes first, he has got autism, everything we do is for him. Do you know how hard it is to get a disability pension? You have to go through so many hoops to be in centrelink and paperwork to even get that payment. Now, I have to prove everything. I have to give over my husband's information to prove that we pay our mortgage. I pay my portion in cash. I give it to my husband. We don't like using credit cards because we've been hacked before. So, also it's taking a life skill away from my son, who I'm trying to teach how to save, how to giving him pocket money, things like that. But I can't do it when I have a bloody indue card. You know, it's all stuck in quarantine in a different bank account. If I wanted a Visa card, I would have applied for one. I don't want one.
Yes, we don't want a credit card.
We don't want it.
We don't want it.
You know what I mean?
Like, we don't want it.
And being called and labelled that you're an alcoholic, that you abuse your children, that they don't get, they're not being clothed, fed, all those sorts of things. And a dog bludger, all those sorts of things. Before I was a carer, I worked in this town. My husband's been in the same job for 20 years. This card needs to be done by a case-by-case situation. The council know and the courts know in this town who are the people that need to be on this card. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is so frustrating. I'm sick and tired of ringing indue. Can I use my card to do this? Can I pay this? Can I do that? You know, you think twice, oh, maybe I might get a gym membership. No, they might not pay that.
question. In terms of when you said that payments are late, so you can't renew a card, you have to get them to do it, you can't do it like when you're
Look, there are instances, right, like I have my direct debits that come out of my bank account. I've told them, you're not having my information, because if I give them their indue my information, it goes overseas, it goes everywhere. My privacy and everything is gone.
Plus having to prove that you paid this particular bill, not go spend it on alcohol and...
Yeah, so we have to justify ourselves.
Yeah, you have to justify themselves. You have to prove everything. You have to prove every single thing.
You have to prove it to
I can't hear, if everyone's speaking at once, I actually can't hear individual what you're saying to me. I really, really want to hear.
We have to, there is a Boulder office at 106 Burke Street. It's a shop front for the indue card. We have to like bank statements, prove everything that
car loan paperwork. You have to literally prove it to them that you're paying this bill for them to allow that money to come out your indue card. If you can't prove that, they won't let it off.
Do you have to do it once you go, here's my bills are okay, or are you saying you have to keep going?
Yeah, pretty much.
If they change the things with indue, they will say that they accept it, but in a couple of weeks' time they can change their minds. And then one instance with you, they cancel.
I go through Budget Direct for my car insurance and my contents insurance.
Yeah.
On Thursday, when it was due to come out, in June, cancelled it. Oh, their terminal don't work. Give us until Monday, we'll sort it out for you.
See, and with it being late, we get incurred fees.
And
a bad credit rating.
They rang me yesterday and told me, oh, it's all sorted out now, you can bring them up and tell them to take them off the indue. I said, well, when I get paid Tuesday, I'll do that. But then again, after I pay for that, I'm going to put back onto my normal bank account from my bank, who I can trust to pay that direct debit, to pay my car insurance and my contents insurance, because I don't trust you. You said that you're going to approve Budget Direct to be an approved merchant, but yet you don't cancel it on me.
You said it was the discount.
And there's even
and I'm worried we're driving my car around, yes, Budget Direct said that I'm covered for 14 days until it's paid for, but if I have an accident in the car or anything happens to it, they won't take anything until I pay that amount.
Which is causing you a lot of stress, very obviously.
Sorry, but I've just got my license and this car. I need my way of getting away.
I totally understand. Hang on.
I'm sitting there. And I might end up losing my car.
Talk to me.
I think Charmaine can speak further on
Just
that.
taking my son's independence away too if I lose it.
Yeah, I totally
Yes, I'm 44. It's taking me now to get my license. I don't want my independence taken away. I don't want my son's independence taken away. We love getting out and doing things.
Yeah.
I feel this
absolutely get
This is one way, and how many others are there out there that aren't being shared? And is it true? Can I ask is it true that I went and had a face conversation this morning, and they laughed at me because I said, look, do you realise that you're a business, doesn't matter who you are, and you accept an indue card. Is this correct that you can be audited any time by indue? And they go, oh no, that's not possible. I went, really?
I'll check. I can't answer that question. So I don't know.
It's in the merchant terms and conditions.
Sorry, I can't
Yeah. I think paragraph 11 in terms and conditions for the merchants. No, that's different. That's the everybody's copy. There is a separate terms and conditions for businesses that nobody was given. So.
We actually were checking into that because people have been telling us that, and we got an answer back saying no, we didn't direct debit. That's correct, isn't it?
But direct debits are banned.
Sorry?
direct debits are a band on indue.
They could do a direct credit, but that other business is going to give their bank account details for you to use on the indue card to make a direct credit. It's not a direct debit being called a direct credit because I had to do that with my card, you see. And so it took like half an hour for them to convince who I'm going through to give their bank account details to do it as a direct credit.
Yeah.
So, because they're a bit iffy about giving someone else their bank account details when they shouldn't have to. I'm more than happy to set up a direct debit with my bills and that. I'm happy to do that. But how can I set up a direct debit when I'm not allowed to even give out the bank account details? So I told us, well, fine, can I set up as a BPay payment? Yes, you can do that. We can manage to do that for you. We've got everything for BPay payments that way. I've done it, set it up as BPay payments instead. For my car to be paid off. Anyone who's working here, my car is out there. It's a Mitsubishi 380 LS. Your taxes are paying for that. It's not going on drugs. It's not going on alcohol. It's not on gambling. It's been spent on that. $6,000 of your taxes has been spent on that for me to get around. I rather spend your taxes on a car to drive.
Sorry, we did have another question. Did you still want to answer a question?
My name's Natasha. I'm a carer like Melissa. I am actually responsible for my terminally ill mother, and I also had my life insurance I'm with RAC for all my insurance policies.
Yeah.
I was lucky because I've been with RAC for so long. I got a phone call and because of injuries, I couldn't pay my life insurance. It's got to the point where I actually cleaned my brother's house so that way I could have a little bit of extra cash to keep my bank account to pay my bills that kept getting deferred from the indue card.
So indue wouldn't pay your life insurance to the RAC?
That's right.
On what
They wouldn't release the money.
You've got to have new excuses.
It's
your account.
Yeah.
But it's their account, but it's your
Yeah,
money.
so you
Well, you
Yes, so what it says is just, I went to the Gold Shop Fund to get some assistance to get the money back into my bank account so I can pay my bills because I didn't want all my details on this card. Indue turned around at my people at Gold Shop Fund, rang RAC saying that I had given permission for them to update my details. I didn't. I went to ask for some help to get the money back so I can pay my bills because I had all the direct debits already set up on my bank account. That's right.
Yeah.
I've lost $30 in overdue fees on my own personal bank account because of this shit.
Because they won't. So you don't have enough money in your bank account to pay your bills because the majority of it's in your account.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I've finally managed to get money back to pay my bills, but I understand something to say.
Okay. Do you want me to read this out? Or
Yeah, I can't go there.
Yeah. So this is from your
This
mum?
is from my mum.
Okay. I have seen a rise in people begging for furniture online to furnish new houses. Then a friend was begged by someone to allow them to pay for groceries in return for cash. From never having to give my daughter money to regularly giving her cash as the card cancels payments, if it thinks balance drops too fast, family members depositing money into accounts so payments don't default. How can people take advantage of every opportunity to save money, which can then be used elsewhere if they don't have cash to do so? So clothing in bulk of Facebook, garage sales, freezer markets, FPOS. If FPOS is down, then you are stuffed with no cash, treated like imbeciles. You trust my daughter.
You trust my daughter?
You trust my daughter with my life, but not money.
And I ended up giving me a bank card so I can get the groceries for the house because my dad works full time because she is totally and permanently disabled.
I would prefer to be home. I would prefer to be home alone, vulnerable and isolated, than have to deal with this card. Where is the dignity in the card? She's my carer, not everyone.
And I also have mental health issues.
So you know,
She's also put on Facebook, she's been quite vocal about it, comparing this indue card system to the Nazi situation years and years ago.
Do you have any questions, or are you all good?
The fact that people I received my indue card before I got to open a letter telling me what was going on at TNL.
You got the card before the letter. Did you know that you were going to?
No.
It just came in later.
The letter was dated on the 13th of April.
It's called forced income management. We've been forced on it.
So did you know, that's the other question I was going to ask you, Melissa, that you were going to be put on the card?
No.
Did you hear about any consultation before you got it?
Along the grapevine, I heard that this indue card was coming into town and that we'll get a letter first before we get the card. So when I found that out, I rang I rang the DSS and tried to get an exemption. With all medical backing from my doctor, everything like that, I have mental health issues, suffer from anxiety, I have enough on my plate because I am a carer, having to deal with my son's appointments, all those sorts of things, medication, all that sort of stuff. They still deny me an exemption.
And Natasha, you didn't know either. Did you hear about the public?
No.
Was there a
Card first, and then the letter.
so a lot of people sent that seems to have happened.
Yeah.
Was there any public meeting that you saw advertised that you could go along to hear about the card?
There was one meeting that I guarantee nobody here would know because it was held at GIFSA only for like the mothers of children who carers of carers.
Except for the one that gives the third people who need to use.
There was 12 people at the meeting, and we had a guy who would not tell us anything about the card other than support. You would not give us any more information than that.
Their support. Ring this number, they ring this number.
So was it information?
It was
Like you go spend your money and you go to McDonald's and use your card at McDonald's if you want to go to McDonald's.
And we were told we could use it in Russia, no problem.
McDonald's have a fee all the time when you can use the money to go buy food to have a meal at home where it will be cheaper to feed you so many things.
Ocean cruises.
The lady down the back's been wanting
Yes.
to make a comment.
I've got a question. I've got another question over here.
Good morning, guys. I've been here in the office all my life, 54 years. I'm a Darrell and I'm a Gallagher woman. I'm a tribal princess in my Cosmo Newbury area where my actual ancestors actually came. Now, you guys don't realise and see the bigger picture behind this whole thing. I don't even know if you guys want to know about the New World Order. This New World Order has been in place since 2012. They have given us till 2018 to implement this card. Now this card, what this card does is the government, per se, the other people behind the scene, per se, the Queen, they're controlling all of your lives. They're controlling all of your lives. So what they're doing, they're taking away your jobs. They're taking away your homes. They're taking away your cars. They're taking away, they're going to kill your animals because the government cannot get to your homes. They're going to take away your boats, your motorbikes, your Harleys, your flash cars, everything that you've been sitting there, you've earned and worked all your life. Now, 2018 is the year that they introduced this New World Order. It's the card. Okay? So we've been under this card. And unfortunately, I don't know if you hear about the supremacists that are sitting behind their big white Eiffel Towers, they're earning their big monies and that sort of stuff. What they're doing with you, they're playing a game with all our lives. They'll send some low-life people out there and say, okay, that person is worth 5,000, shoot him. That worst person's worth 3,000, shoot him. That's how it goes. And guess what? This is just another game to them of how we're going to see that the people are going to survive in this and see who comes out of it. So this New World Order is actually in play. It's based towards the 666, the marking of the beast. It's a prophecy, the Bible prophecy. I believe in that. I've read it for 46 years. Because I had something that nearly happened to me when I was a child. This has been with me all this time. The government is playing with your lives, okay? Do not let them do this, because you're only just a number, and that's all it is. On your
When I pay my bills, it's through the Westpac card. It automatically comes out and the balance is left in the card. So I know that what to spend. Food, petrol, rah. Indue card, it sits in that indue card. I'm waiting and waiting for this rent to be paid, light to be paid, fines and enforcements to be paid, things to be paid. This balance is still in the indue card. I'm missing out, and I'm thinking, they might have taken it or they must have dealt with it. Now I'm out of rent, I have lights, fines enforcement stop, because I've got to do it automatically myself. I can't, because I've got to get on the tablet. When I'm going to die to forward this money to this rent, to this light, to this fines enforcement, where it came out automatically, I have to be harassed in that area.
So in other words, just so I understand, we used to do it was easy. You can't do that.
With the indue card. I have to wreck my brain to get on the computer, tablet, my tablet has to be, what account do I put it in? What number do I have to be? I'm old school, I'm old telephone, ring, ding, ding. With this new tablets, I'm sending my fax, how much you earn,
So I'm going to follow
not indue cards. When I did ask to do it automatically from indue card, they said you have to do it manually every fortnight.
And I've already done the Centrelink payment when she done it. I work for Centrelink, and we done the payments deduction. The people literally came in and we helped them to do their deductions. Now those deductions keep continuously happening every fortnight. Now that you're on the indue card, remember it's owned by a private company, they don't care. You now have to go in physically on your own and sit and talk to the indue people. Remember, you're repeating yourself again and again and again and again and again. Because this indue card has taken away your independence rights, has taken away your individual rights because you've managed it with Centrelink. Now we are forced on income management through this indue card. Now people are missing out on these deductions that Centrelink were made. Now you have to do it in your own, and that's why they're getting caught. Everybody, all these people here are getting caught on our deductions, and we have to pay more.
And we get the 20% that goes in there. When that goes, reoccurs from there.
much harder to manage your own now, whereas you know,
Far harder. Very
people who are we all are, afford to buy tablets, iPhone, or an iPad or something to access these accounts because access can access.
You can't buy credit for online business. You can't buy credit.
Exactly. You can't afford to have it. You need to buy it online. So how's the government helping us?
When you were all speaking at once, I can't hear.
5 trips to the Gold Shop front to get all the shit sorted out. Repeating myself every time. I had a nervous breakdown at the Gold Shop front trying to sort this out because I deal with anxiety issues as well as stress levels from my own health as well as my mum. And yet 5 trips to organise to get everything sorted out. Then I get a phone from RAC not even a week later saying that we tried to take the payment and they wouldn't let us. Thankfully, I had the money in my bank account, so I said, just go back to my bank account to take the money for my life insurance. Because if I hadn't been with RSC for so long, I wouldn't have got that. I wouldn't have known that they couldn't pay my life insurance. Because I didn't get notification.
So I've got my speak on this. This gentleman, David, this lady, to talk on this. Okay, sorry.
I'm John Walker, I'm the Chief Executive of the City of Kalgoorlie. I wanted to just say a few words at the end. I came here genuinely to listen and to learn and to hear and to understand some of the issues. And the reason I didn't want to say at the start, when it was mentioned I was here, you can see the antagonism and the feel that would come. And I think it would have derailed the meeting if I'd got up and tried to argue or put my point of view. Because I wouldn't have got to listen, I wouldn't have got to learn and more with you. So that's why I am here, purely to listen and to learn. I can't answer for other people who have stood up in favour of this card as to why they didn't come. And it's not my business to answer for them, but I came for a genuine reason to listen, and I have. Now, I'm clearly on the record of supporting the card, and I believe there are good reasons for it. I could probably have answered 3/4 of the questions that were asked today. But I've chosen not to because I think it's a listening exercise for me today, and not somewhere I end up in a debate with everybody about it. So I really just needed to say that because you know, I know the answers to where the government funding is, and I know the answers to a lot of things in the bowl, the shop front. Those staff are employed by me, the way the system's rolled out. And so I need to know. I hear from my staff, I hear from other people, I hear from those we did consult with, and certainly wasn't me on the record to say there was 170 or 270 consultations. That wasn't me that said that. I know we consulted, but I have no idea what the numbers were. So I really think it's important, if you are to get your message across, and if you clearly are genuinely affected by what's happened, that you convey that information in a way that allows people like me to absorb it, to hear it, and to do something about it if need be. So it was a genuine attempt to put myself here, knowing that there are people in this room who would probably love to lynch me and do other things. But it was a genuine attempt to hear it. I'm glad I came. I am happy to answer questions if I could answer them without getting caught in a debate, because it would ruin your meeting. So that's...
So direct questions are made. Some of them I can't answer. I'm not here to answer on behalf of the government, but I'll ask government questions. Okay? Is that right?
So David Jackson speaking this.
Okay.
Direct his questions to you, Rach.
Mr. Walker said he's here to understand what all the kerfuffle was about. Well, let me put it to Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker, we use bugger all because you and your cohorts kept it from us. We knew absolutely nothing. The only indication that there was such a thing as an indue card was you were going along with Mr. Bowler to Senator to ask some questions and see how successful it was. They were the words you used, to see how successful it was in Senator. Now you had conflicting information that was coming from Kununurra. You had a supporter in a federal member, Rick Wilson. Now, he was running about with a plebiscite. He had it up on Facebook, a plebiscite, asking only for a yes answer to his introduction of the indue card. That was on Facebook, and it was on there for 14, 15 days. Then, after my criticism of it on Facebook, it was taken down.
Amen.
And he made excuses for it. Then a couple of weeks later, there was a message from his health office when there was an insight that there was going to be people laid off in the mining industry. His office came out with a statement that there was 764 jobs available in the goldfields. All that sort of crap was coming from, all that sort of comment was coming directly from Wilson. He was the antagonist. And you two got behind him, even with the camera. All of that stuff. But we didn't know what your intentions were. And we still don't know what your intentions were until a councillor came out and whinged about a few drunks and Indigenous people and homeless people that were camping in front of her shop. And that resulted as a result of a child running to the side of a car on something that she took up and made an issue out of.
That's just one thing.
Before I was on this card, I used to be able to say $1,000 easy. Can't do that now. And I think it's just so right.
I've got a Centrelink hardship loan put straight onto the NG card and I couldn't even get what I came for. I came to go for a liver transplant, turned around, someone else got it because I couldn't get down there because Pat's office, his aeroplane made a mistake, Qantas made a mistake. So I missed out. Now a couple of months prior to that, this NG card was talking about how it won't affect other people. Well, that's bullshit, because this Indigenous lady I know who happens to drink alcohol every day is blind in one eye. And now because she's blind in one eye, she's up for an exemption. I said, well mate, I'm an epileptic, I've been in a major car accident, I've got a shopping trolley issue, a list of things. I have carers coming and go, I use Silver Chain, I use the group community, and I said, and these things cost money. When you go to pay for them, they ask you what do you want to pay them for. So you tell them, okay, I want to pay Centrelink, you can do it BPay, you can do it this. I've been paying my water rates for 7 years with a money order. Now I went to the post office to get a money order. I was told I was no longer allowed to do it. And then my family in South Australia, my daughter has got 2 children, both autistic. I sent money over to my children, which is no longer available. My kids are going, my grandkids are going now because I can't help support them. I've got messages on here with my grandkids begging Nana, please help us, please help us. No nappies, no formula, because that was my job as a grandma to help my daughter because she was in a domestic violence situation which no longer I can support her with. And my mechanic has told me it costs him fees to use my NG card. Okay, I got fees on NG card fees and I got bank fees. I'm overdrawn $30 in bank fees because of these NG card transactions. Now, the people that work doing things like mechanics on the car, I went down to the Boulder shop front. I spent 45 minutes in there with these ladies telling me that if I wanted to get $200 transferred every 28 days, I could. I said, love, the guy doesn't work for free. The parts aren't for free. How am I supposed to get my car running? Well, yesterday all the fuses went in my car. I just come from my mechanic now and I begged him. I said, on Wednesday, if I come in here with my NG card, will you take it? He said, no. I said, why? He goes, why should I pay for your bank fees on that NG card transaction? Because it costs. There is costs and fees that we are not aware of, that other people as businesses are aware of. Now, I didn't ask to get hit by a drink driver and I didn't ask to be born with a disability. I'm called epilepsy. I have grand mal seizures. I had one 6 weeks ago at the Coles front and nobody wanted to help because they said I was an NG card person. I said, what does that mean? They said, oh, you're a drunk and alcoholic. I said, I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I'm on the liver transplant list. You can't do things like this. When you go to Perth, they don't even know what it is. They look at it and think it's a Visa card. And it's not a Visa card. When they realise it's not a Visa card, they don't do it. There was a thing I can show you on here now, where this miraculous program was on Shark Tank about losing weight. It dissolves
to buy it, I was told it was not acceptable. Okay, now this was a lose weight product. Now, where do we get off, mate? There should be a trial. Yes, I understand they want a trial, but trial on the people that are failing to go to work because of drug-related or alcohol-related syndromes. This woman now, with her eye, who drinks alcohol every day, everybody knows who Ruth Anderson is, from RA. You know who RA is? Alright, well this is just an example. RA drinks every day, but she's being exempted. Now, I don't even drink, and I've got to go and get my medication every week. It's hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
That's horrible, it's horrible.
Because
Your money's not normal.
Sorry, we do.
Sorry.
When do I know